Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Drinks with Johnny. Super excited today. I am actually joined by my co-host, who hasn't been here in a while, Brandon Lombardo, up there. Yep,
What's
there
up?
He is. Say hi, everybody. And our awesome guest today from Busted Open, and you might have heard of one of the guys from some other stuff, too. We got Mark and Dave from Busted Open. How you guys doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for the invite.
Did you like that introduction too? You know, just Mark and Dave from Busted Open.
It's like
No
Sam
deal.
and Dave, but just cooler.
Yeah, Mark, being the world's strongest man, a world champion in 3 different sports, and a WWE Hall of Famer, he could just pass over all that.
That's what. Yeah, I didn't want to, Mark, I didn't want to start it off by, sucking your dick right off the beginning and giving you this big old, accolades of everything,
Speaking of dick,
I like to work it in there. I like to make sure we have a little moosh boosh first, if you will.
and then he followed it up with, I like to work it in. Boy,
It's slow love in this show.
Quickly.
Now, of course, we were very excited to have you on here, Mark, the world's strongest man, all those accolades that Dave just said. And, of course, having Dave here on the show, I did Busted Open. Mark wasn't there. Bully was there, and Dave was there last year before we did our Madison Square Garden show. And then Dave made it out to it.
Really quick. I don't mean to interrupt. Let me jump in.
Yes, he did.
Phenomenal show. The crowd was phenomenal. You guys are killing it. I was just talking about it with some people yesterday, man. Like, as big as your band has been, and you've taken some chances creatively too lately, like, it's so cool to see that it hit and people accepted it, because a lot of times when you have a hardcore fan base, when you try to do something different, it's rejected. The fact that your fan base was all in on it and that get that kind of crowd and excitement, and me being at that garden show, I wanted to thank you for that. So I appreciate you looking out for me. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
I feel like I'm slighting Dave somehow because he introduced me, and throwed out accolades and stuff. I always like to introduce him too, right back, and say Dave LaGreca, the super fan, the guy that created Busted Open for Sirius XM, and also Mr. Portobello Mushroom. Where he lacks in length, he makes up in girth. I mean, we was talking about dick, so I mean,
we were just talking about that right before we hit record, and obviously, it's something that all the ladies love is a real girthy short penis.
Where you only
so
have
glad
to,
Mark brought it back into the combo.
Like you only have to put it in and stir it around. Just put it in. It'll touch the
And
sides.
you know what? And Mark, the big question coming out of this is people saying, now how does Mark know that? That's going to be the big question.
It's rock and roll, baby.
Busted Open orgies, man. That's what it's all about.
Busted open and busting nuts. Let's go.
Oh, God.
Boy,
I knew it was going to be this kind
you
of
talking
party.
about the show going to the left, boy. Whoa.
We've only begun to defy ourselves. We've only yet begun to defy
We've
ourselves.
only begun, gentlemen.
This is how you build friendships, Mark. This is how you build friendships right here.
Absolutely.
Putting your dick in the mashed potatoes right off the bat. Right off the bat.
Hey, if
Mark.
it tastes like portobello mushrooms like it looks, we might be okay with it in the mashed potatoes.
There you go. Nope.
Let's get culinary. Let's get culinary here.
I learned early on, play on your strengths. God didn't give me a lot of strengths. So you got to play on those strengths. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it's the same way for musicians as well. Like, there's some things you can't do and there's some things you can do. When you're up on stage, you're going to do the things you can do, not the things you can't do. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm not really sure with that analogy. Are you saying that you just use the fact that you could hit all the walls at once and not quite get to the G spot is a good thing?
Moving on.
Dave, a rock and roller, they just use a guitar.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And they don't care. They don't give a shit. They're drunk anyway. So, they don't really give a shit,
Yeah. No, you get drunk so that you do give a shit. You get
There
drunk
you
so it's
go.
more fun out there.
Okay.
Do you guys ever do the show drunk? I know you guys do Sirius XM
One
in the
time.
morning every day.
Yep.
How'd it go?
It didn't end well. I think I
How
called
did it start,
somebody.
though?
I think I called somebody a motherfucker or something. Like
You did.
I cussed out Apollo Crews and I'm one of those people that should not drink. That's why I don't drink. You ever met that dude that takes about 3 or 4 shots and then they want to fight everybody?
Yeah. Oh, that's you.
Nice.
Not good.
And that's scary. See, like, if it's someone like me, everyone just kind of laughs and is like, really? But if it's someone like you
You got to
that wants
shoot
to
him.
fight everybody, it's not funny.
shoot
Yeah,
'em.
that's... Yeah. You're the kind of motherfucker they invented a 45 caliber
There you go.
for. You know what I mean?
ACP.
And let me set up the story. Because we were doing a show, and Mark got a bottle of Terramina because he wanted to promote, the Rock's tequila.
Yeah.
So Mark is not a drinker. Like he said, he does not drink. So he did a few shots of tequila, and for somebody who doesn't drink and you're doing shots of tequila, he was gone. And he's right. He was, and I forget who it was. I forget the wrestler he had on. You got the name wrong. Like, you didn't even know who it was. You were calling him by the wrong name, and it was a lot. It was a lot, but it was
How
great,
long ago
though.
was
It was
this?
great.
How long ago was this?
It was during the pandemic, so it's got to be about 3 or 4 years ago.
It's acceptable.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Pandemic times, you can
And
get
is
away
that-
with that.
Is that fair to say that's up in your guys' podcast archives if people want to go back and listen
Yeah.
to that?
It was a holiday show. It was the Christmas show in 2020.
No, it wasn't. I remember it was our SummerSlam party show. We did a party
There
for
it
Summer.
is.
We did a virtual party for our fans around SummerSlam, and that's when it happened.
Wow.
Yep.
Like I said, I was a little liquored up. I can't remember.
That's fantastic. One time. So when you say you don't drink, though, Mark, is it like a hard pass these days, or do you? It's just very rarely.
No, I haven't drank alcohol since that day 3 years ago, and then it was probably about 3 years before that I had a drink. Because when I was in college, I got in trouble, and then at least 2 overseas. Whenever we used to go overseas when I was wrestling, about 2007, 2009, somewhere in there, 2 trips, went to jail on the road, both trips.
Damn.
And they were like,
Oh,
you can't drink no more. Like, you going to end up like either getting killed or because nobody want to fight you. Like, you gonna fuck around and get shanked in an alley somewhere or something. So I just don't drink because I know people that were violent drinkers, and I remember how much I hated being around them. And the last thing I want to do is be what I despise the most.
yeah, man. I mean, I actually just recently stopped drinking as well. Not for the same reason. No one's afraid of fighting me, so that's not going to be the case. But you find your different reasons for it. I have a question in that though. Did you go the route of the Godfather? Because I've talked to him, and he was a violent drunk at one point. He self-proclaimed, and he said he found the green way and just gets high and found that way.
No, I'm not a drinker or smoker or nothing, man. I'm stupid enough as it is. But see, the Godfather, I witnessed his drunken rage before. We were at a place in North Carolina, and you have to get him to tell you about this place. It was crazy. So this is talking about rock and roll. This is fucking during the Attitude Era, rock and roll days. And there was a strip club, a women's strip club on one side, and a men's strip club on the other side. And somewhere along the lines, all the transvestites used to hang out in the middle. I can't remember where this place was. I know it was in Carolina somewhere.
Okay.
And Godfather was gone. I mean, he was me on the Terramana. and
Okay.
his whole body is covered in tattoos. So he got hot. He took his shirt off, and we in the strip club where the women are, and him and Undertaker and myself and a bunch. I mean, it's probably 30 wrestlers having a ball at the bar,
Right.
not even thinking about the girls yet. We were just all about us.
Yeah.
And Godfather took his shirt off and sat it on the chair, and he sat down. And about that time, there was one of the transvestites that had came into the women's side and came over and started finger tracing tattoos on Godfather. And he was like, "You better stop that. You trying to get fucked?" And and Undertaker said, "Hey, nobody's fucking nobody. Like it's not going down." Bear, his nickname Bear. Bear,
Yeah.
not the time. You don't, listen, just because you my brother don't mean you tell me what to do. And bro, like now and he was 300 pounds at this time. Him and Taker both.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Big boys.
everybody's like, no, Godfather. No, Godfather my ass. It just, he was inaudible. Like you couldn't have a conversation with this drunken rage. And finally, somebody said, hey, it's a man. He said, well, if anybody getting fucked, I'm doing the fucking. And we all went, oh my God. Like, so.
At least he was like the way he was speaking before with all the slurs he couldn't understand, but that was crystal clear. I want to believe that was crystal clear.
He not taken.
But Mark, what was that like for you? Because you don't drink. So what is it like for you? Because the Attitude Era, I mean, everybody was going to the bar after the show. So like, you must have a million of those stories.
Oh, I did. I had a million of them, and I was new, so I was trying to be in the good graces of folks. And there was at least 5 or 6 times where I had $1,500 bar bills because I'm like, oh, I bought a bar, drink some on me. I got you. I got all the boys. Now all these other damn people, y'all buy y'all own shit, but all the wrestlers, I got y'all. So I'm trying to like buy my way in. And of course, that shit don't work. They look at you like you're a damn moron. So like nobody told me until later on.
I love that you brought up the Attitude Era. That that's pretty much where you came into the WWF at the time, Mark. And I love that Dave brought it up. Dave, you went in like the host of the show. Like this is just something that's ingrained in you. When did you start Busted Open, and when did you start as like your journalistic and interviewing career?
Well, April 28th was our 15-year anniversary. But we've been on the air since April 28th, 2009.
Congratulations!
So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so 15 years that we've been on the air, and it started as I worked for SiriusXM working on the NFL channel, but I was always a big pro wrestling fan, so I was always pitching getting a wrestling show. And at first it was just me and Doug Mortman, who was just another fan who worked at SiriusXM. And it was because of the popularity of the show. It just built from there. And then, Mark came in and Bully came in and Tommy, and it just like, it really kind of snowballed. But I'm a lifelong fan. I started watching back in 1981. I've been a wrestling fan for over 42 years. So to me, I knew that it would be the perfect fit for SiriusXM, and it has. And thank God, #1 sports show on SiriusXM. Very thankful for that. A lot of times we're the #1 pro wrestling podcast. During Super Bowl week, we hit number 13 of all sports podcasts in the country.
Oh, damn.
So I've been very blessed, and I always thank Mark and Bully and Tommy and Thunder and Mickey James, like people who are a part of the show, because they're the legends, they're the performers. I'm just a fan, and that's the biggest thing. Is I just never lost my fandom. So to your point, where you're talking about being a journalist, or I'm not I'm not a
Yeah.
journalist. I'm not like a writer. I'm not any of that. I am just a talk show host who's a fan of wrestling. So
Love that.
I don't try. One thing we don't do on Busted, we don't do spoilers. We don't do like the dirt sheet type radio. We try to avoid that. We just kind of celebrate pro wrestling. And listen, we could get controversial. We'll talk about hot topics, but I know my place as a fan. Like Mark is the only one who could talk about being in the ring and being a wrestler. I can't talk about that.
Yeah.
So I talk about the other side of being, and I'm fine with that. I like being a fan. So I like the magic of pro wrestling. So, yeah. So that's that. It started back in 2009, 15 years strong.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I didn't realize it was the 15 years. That's, again, congratulations to that. And I love that it started, organically out of your fandom. Like that's everything for us here on the show. Me and Brandon too, huge wrestling fans. When we started this thing together, one of our first guests I see behind Mark there was Jake the Snake Roberts, and I wasn't expecting to be able to get him on. Honestly, our producer of the show hadn't done anything like this before, and he's like, "I'm going to try and get you Jake the Snake," and I laughed. We were at a barbecue at my house together. I was like, "Yeah, you're going to get Jake the Snake." As a big wrestling fan, I'm like, "There's no fucking way. How are you going to make that happen?" And he did, sure enough. And then from then on, it was like, okay, I really enjoy this podcasting thing, so I get to talk to my heroes like you guys here today who are in the wrestling world and everything like that. And that's just fun for me and Brandon, right?
Yeah, it's a blast.
And we were 1 hour once a week. And now we're live 3 hours, 7 days a week. So it was like, it took a long time to get there, but yeah, we started just 1 hour once a week.
Man.
Well, so you said you started as your wrestling fandom in 1981. What was it that brought you in?
Tommy Rich. I mean, I live in New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey. I still live in New Jersey. I born and raised. But the power of cable TV, Georgia Championship Wrestling. That was the first wrestling I watched. Fell in love with Tommy Rich, and that was like my first favorite wrestler was Tommy Wildfire Rich and Georgia Championship Wrestling. So I remember going to a friend's house, and I had never watched wrestling before. And he goes, and Georgia Championship Wrestling was on. He asked me, he goes, "Do you watch wrestling?" And I said, "No, isn't that fake?" And he's like, "No,
you use the F word, you son of a bitch."
Yeah, he goes, "No, the WWF is fake. The NWA is real." And I was like, "Really?" I said, "There's fake wrestling and real wrestling." He goes, "Yeah. Don't watch that Bob Backlund stuff." I remember it like it was yesterday. He goes, "Don't watch the Bob Backlund stuff. That's fake. But the NWA is real." So I started watching it thinking like, all right, I just watched Georgia. I didn't watch like anything else because I thought that was all fake. So I just watched NWA for like a year and a half. All I watched was Georgia Championship Wrestling and the NWA because I thought like that it was 100% genuine and real.
That's awesome.
Fucking Mark.
I was just watching Mark shake his head over here. I'm wondering what he's thinking about all that. How was it for you though, Mark? I mean, you came in from the Olympic world. You came in as an athlete outside of wrestling, years back before. Did you have did you have a moment that brought you into wrestling as a fan before you got there, or were you just like, hey, I could kick some ass. I'll probably go over here and make a few bucks now that I'm not an Olympian anymore?
No, man. Once an Olympian, always Olympian. I was a wrestling fan long before I got into the strength arts. I remember sitting on the floor watching Saturday morning cartoons with your feet hanging in there, watching WWE or WWF cartoon. And my grandmother would take me with her because my grandmother was a super fan. And I'm basically Dave LaGreca, but a guy that was an athlete that got an opportunity to wrestle. It's like if Dave had a 600-pound bench and a 1,000-pound squat and liked to talk shit to people, and WWE called him and said, "Hey man, I heard you're a big wrestling fan. You wanna go?" And that's basically how it was. They contacted me, And
Man, I think they would have if they didn't hear about the portobello he was rocking in his
there you
pants. I think
go.
that was the
It was
thing.
either
You
that
gotta
or
be
porn.
different, though. You gotta be
He
different.
was destined for success.
It should have been a gimmick. It just kind of hangs out of the side of the Speedo just a little bit, just to really show what's going on.
Portobellos don't hang out a little bit.
You guys getting a lot of vacations together then, I see?
No, but Mark, it's funny because I met Mark. Mark was one of the first guests ever on Busted Open. He was a guest on our first ever show. Him and Prince Nana, and I remember when his career was starting to wind down in the WWE. We met. It was in Texas right after WrestleMania 32, and we had a long conversation in the lobby. Mark, remember that
Yeah.
of the hotel you were staying at? And I was like, "Hey, man, whenever you're done and you want to get into radio, give me a call." And Mark always wanted to be. That was always a dream of his, was to be on radio. So that's how it started. Mark and I are like brothers. Like we're good friends.
Yeah.
Mark, when I got into the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, AEW had the show at Wembley in the UK, and
Yeah.
Mark was like, "Hey man, I'm sorry I'm not going to be there for your big day, but I'll be thinking about you because I gotta take a flight to Wembley." And he surprised me, and he introduced me. He did my induction.
That's cool.
Mark.
Oh, that's
So like a
sick.
total surprise from me. So Mark's a good man. It's great. People don't understand. Like as great as he is in the ring, and he's a Hall of Famer. He's even better outside the ring, and I'm honored to call him a friend of mine.
Oh, that's sweet. I love
I'm
that.
over
I love
And
that
that's
after all that.
and that's
After all
when I
that
showed
shit
girth.
talking.
It's right at that point I showed the girth. That's like right there, the emotional moment where we're all emotional.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad you brought up the induction there, and then Mark coming out and surprising you. That's some pretty cool stuff. I mean, so now clarify this for me though, Dave. Did you start the Busted Open on your own, and then Mark came in, and then Bully Ray, or how did it all go in from there?
Yeah, it was Bully called me right after the Okada. Not the Okada. Yeah, it was Okada and Kenny Omega, New Japan.
Okay.
I put out something on Twitter saying that was one of the best championship matches I had ever seen, and he was texting me because he was a frequent guest on the show, and then he called me and we just started having this long debate, and he was like, I was like, man, this should be on the air. And that kind of started the ball rolling with Bully. And then Tommy was somebody like Mark that wanted to be on air. And he was doing some stuff on our fantasy football channel. So he was easy. And then with Mark. So those are the pillars. Like Mark, Bully, and Tommy are the pillars. But that wasn't until we were like 7-8 years into doing the show.
Wow.
That's when they came on board. We had been doing it for about 7-8 years before that, myself and Doug Mortman. And he went on to other things, but I wasn't leaving, man. I was completely committed to this show going 5 days a week. Like I wasn't satisfied with it being on once a week, twice a week. I wanted this to be my career. I knew the potential that this could be something bigger. And now I think with the help of Mark and Bully and Tommy, I think we reached that potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely seems like, that you didn't just reach the potential. You just said you're doing
Just
you're doing
kick the damn
it 3
door.
hours a day.
But I want more. I'm not satisfied.
I love that.
I want Busted Open to be its own channel.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'll say this here publicly. I'm giving SiriusXM until October 11th of 2024. I want them to step up and make the decision of Busted Open being not just a show that's live 7 days a week. I want it to be its own channel. I think Busted Open and pro wrestling deserve its own channel. So that's what I'm pushing for. And if by October 11th we don't get that, then I'm going to call the nation in to come to New York City, and we're going to do a show outside the building. And I want SiriusXM to show, I want them to see, and I think they do, the strength in numbers of how big and how strong our audience is. So we just did our show out in Philadelphia for WrestleMania. We
Saw
had
that. Looked awesome.
1,300 fans at our show came out to be on the show. So, you know, myself and Mark and everybody on the show, our goal is to have our own channel on SiriusXM.
So,
Well, damn.
why October 11th? That's a very specific date.
It was just like I just threw it out there. I have no idea.
And then once you commit, you got to stick to it.
All right.
Yeah, once you throw out the date, now you got to.
Yeah, now it's on it. Now it's on a podcast. Yeah. Now it's going to be clipped out for social media and everything.
The Shitterverse is going to tear it up.
Yeah,
but you know what though? You guys know, like doing this show and like Avenged Sevenfold, like that's a band, like, you know, they now realize you had to show them, hey, we could sell records. You know what I'm saying? We could be streamed. Yeah. We could sell out arenas.
Yeah.
Like we're not a club band anymore. We're not a small shed band anymore. We're an arena band. Like you got to show them. How do you do that? By the strength of your audience and the strength in numbers. It's the same thing with podcasting. It's the same thing with shows. Like our audience is out there and they're loud. You know, we have that connection with our audience, and I think they want more. And who knows? Maybe Drinks with Johnny is a show on Busted Open 24/7. Maybe that's a show that's going to be live on Sirius.
If you get your own channel on October 11th, by my birthday, November 18th, I want to have my own reoccurring show on the Busted Open channel. Then I'm putting that out there.
All right. Well, if you don't listen, if you don't throw it out there and you don't verbalize it, then it's never going to happen.
If you don't throw it, it'll never be caught.
You got to verbalize it. Make it so. The only way you can make it happen is by speaking. You just said it. So who's to say that can't happen?
All right, everyone, go make sure that that's its own channel so that you can see more of me on that channel as well.
Bring it back to me, guys.
Right? Hey, what's the name of the fucking show, Mark? Come on, let's go.
Man.
Oh, man. So let's get into a little bit of like what's been going on in wrestling today. I know that this episode probably won't come out and it'll be, you know, everyone will have already talked about it by the time everyone hears our takes on it. But it's still fun to do. It's fucking Monday morning. We all just watched Dynasty last night, I assume.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I thought,
Mark, are you still involved in AEW, by the way?
Yes. I'm still employed. That's always a good thing.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to see. Me and Brandon were just out last month for Sting's last match in Greensboro. I didn't get a chance to see you around there.
Yeah, I was not on the road.
Okay. Wasn't sure because it would have been nice to meet you in person there. We'll have to table that for another day, though, I guess.
Yeah, but you know what? Like if I was gonna do my own wrestling show, it would be a combination of sports, music, and wrestling. And
are you trying to steal my job? Is that what you're fucking saying right now?
Hey, bro, consider
That's
your
all
shit
I talk about.
I am about that life. I love sports. I love music. I love wrestling, and the one added element would be cooking.
Oh,
because I come from a family of chefs, and I've been cooking my whole life as much as I've been. Hell, I was cooking longer than I was wrestling, and can go in any restaurant and cook everything on their menu. And
damn.
I love it.
You really just encompassed everything here at DWJ because we got our culinary guy up here in Brandon. He was a chef and still likes to cook it up.
Yeah, man. It's such a relaxing thing too. The only thing that's hectic is prep. Once I get prep done, which takes up most of my time, then
Dave's not in there as your sous chef? Dave, you ain't getting in there as a sous chef, bro?
No, Dave is like standing there with a fucking plate like this.
I could barely boil water. I would be no help to Mark Henry in the kitchen at all.
Dave boils water at about 250 degrees.
It takes a while, Mark. It takes a while.
What's your what's
you
your
gotta slow cook the water.
yeah? Just what's your favorite thing to cook, Mark? Like, what's your signature dish?
Cajun,
Ooh.
anything jambalaya, etouffee, gumbo. I grind my own sausage. I probably shouldn't have told the world that.
No, that's gonna be just that's our 13-second clip for the week.
Poor
sausage.
I like to grind out my own sausage.
We all do too.
Listen, Mark, there were lonely times on the
It
road,
was
man.
lonely.
Yeah.
There's times on the
I'll
road
bet,
where you're
man.
alone. You got to grind your own sausage.
Hey, it was a choice between a transvestite sausage or his own, and he
Yeah, I
chose
chose
his
mine.
own.
Shit. No thanks. But I love it, man. I love like soul food. And I like Mediterranean foods too. Like, being able to be able to make a dish that's like, say, a paella is kind of a French thing. It's a Spanish thing. It's a Mediterranean thing. Like, people have been making rice and seafood for fucking centuries. And just what different ingredients that you put in. But I like the Mediterranean, the more than cilantro being a more of a Spanish thing. I like culantro and things that have more of a fragrance to them, like mint, like cooking with mint, and like the some of the Western, or I'm sorry, Eastern. Cooking with cumin, so it's, I like the Middle Eastern type of feel too. With a lot of people in America, we don't eat couscous, but I love couscous, and so I'll make couscous every now and then just for my kids, because they grown to love it, because they like the mouth feel of it. And some people just worry about the meats, but like the things about foods from international food is everything has a different texture to it, and I'm strong on texture. My daughter, she can't stand avocado or banana or squash or eggplant, anything that's soft. She hates it, but my son loves it. So like everybody has a different thing about cooking that some people they like that punch, they like that spice. You can put ghost chilies and stuff, Santa Fe chilies, they love it. But I tend to keep everything kind of moderate and mild, except for gumbo. You got to put a punch to gumbo.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that kind of reminds me of like when I'm making a grilled cheese sandwich. Like, it's all about texture. Like, when you cut that Velveeta, like, it depends what kind of mood
Velveeta,
you're
too.
in.
You got to
You know
cut
what
the
I'm
crust
saying?
off.
That's it. Sometimes you want the crust off, and sometimes you put it in the toaster oven. Sometimes you put it in the microwave. Depends about,
The microwave grilled cheese is amazing.
yeah.
That's fine. That's class.
Don't sleep on that. Don't
Yeah,
sleep
man.
on that. And it's done in 30 seconds.
Hey,
That's the best part.
this is like my favorite thing to do, and y'all will love it. Like, get a paper plate, and this is the only thing I've actually used the microwave for, other than boiling water, because I want to hurry up and get a glass of tea or something. Is I will take the big marshmallows, and I will sprinkle cinnamon on them, and then I put them in the microwave for like 15 seconds, and they swell up, and then they go back to being soft, but they're pliable now, and you can like just spoon that and put it on any dessert that you want. It is the best. You could do it with ice cream. Like my kids, they love my little s'more inventions, where we'll toast some graham crackers and chocolate, and then we'll pull those out of the microwave and make these big squishy s'mores and stuff. So I mean, it's just like cooking is more of a family thing, like how me and my kids communicate.
So
But Mark, that
when you're
reminds
going
me.
camping and making s'mores, you bring the microwave with you then, just in case.
You know what, man? I wish it was like that, but no, I take my ass out the woods. People already think I look like a bear, so I'm trying not to get an arrow.
But Mark, that reminds me of my first wife. You know, she was like a marshmallow too, and as soon as we got married, she blew up. You know, kind of like you were just saying there, put it in the microwave.
You
So
left her in for too long, Dave. You left her in.
Oh my god!
That's brutal, man. That's brutal.
Oh,
it happens. It happens.
it happens.
I will say, like, that whole segment is perfect for your, like, the setup for your cooking show on the Busted Open channel right there. You just gotta make the YouTube thing, go into Mark's kitchen. I like it.
So I'm a international food judge as well. So I work with the World Food Championships. We coined the phrase "food sports" with a partner of mine named Mark Conway, and you'll be seeing a lot of stuff here pretty soon. But like we want an ESPN style deal, and he will be him and Jay Ducote, who is a Louisiana chef that beat Bobby Flay. Like I know 100 chefs across the country. It's just like when you go to any town that you've ever been to, you know the DJs, you know the barber shop guys that are rockers, you know the dudes that at restaurants, that chefs that dibble and dabble and play a little guitar, drums or something. It's the same way for me. So every city I go to, I know somebody. I could do a show by making a phone call and have 3 chefs in line to be on the show. So that's kind of like where the inspiration for that comes from. But then I have one of my guys that like I grew up with Bun B from UGK, and like it's me being a conduit to celebrities and entertainers and athletes and Olympians and comedians, like you DJs, like I don't have one. The only thing that I don't fuck with is politics. I don't know no politicians.
Yeah,
Line ass
that's probably for the
politicians.
best.
I don't know none of them.
Well, you know one, right? Don't you? You know Kane.
Yeah, I know Kane, but like me and Glenn, we talk in passing.
Okay.
Like it's not like I'm asking him about his policy and
Yeah, I
where
got you.
he's going, how he wants to run, the circles and who he's running with or for and all that. I don't give a shit. Like I just have zero interest in politics. So
Hell
there's
yeah,
somebody
man.
that's going to be on Busted Open that politics is going to be their thing. That's going to be one
Yeah,
of the things that they want to talk about the most, and that's going to be the least listened to show on the Busted
I
Open
could care
network.
less. I could care
yeah,
less, and it just sets up toxic behavior, which I got to throw back at you guys. Like, in wrestling, and I'm sure you noticed there is a lot of toxic behavior
Yes.
between fans, AEW fans, and WWE fans. Like, is there toxicity when it comes to music? Like, is there? I mean, like, I'm not just talking about like I preferred Sammy Hagar over David Lee Roth, or
hmm
only Ozzy's the true Black Sabbath. But do you get like a lot of toxicity when it comes to music?
I mean, I guess I used to. When we were coming up a little bit, it was a little bit more prevalent.
Okay.
Maybe it was just the time. Maybe it was just my attention to it was a little bit more. Uh, but yeah, I mean, early on, I mean, when you're coming up, and we were coming up in a time where they dubbed us metalcore or whatever with a few other bands, and it wasn't traditional metal or whatever the case may be. So we got there was I don't know, diehards, traditionalists, whatever you want to call them, that saw us as like the new thing, and then you just ride that out though. That's pretty common. Anytime new artists in music come up.
Johnny, there's people that they'll ask you shit like, hey man, what's not music to you? There's somebody out there today that they making a lot of money, but they fucking not real music. Like, I would never ask you that because
No.
I don't give a fuck about the negativity.
Right.
I want
Yeah.
the positive side of it, and I want like who is underrated, man? Who is it that I haven't heard them yet, but you heard them, and you like, man, that son bitch gonna be a star. That's my mentality. That's how I
Yeah.
am with wrestling. I don't give a damn about who people don't like,
All
and
right.
don't bring the negativity. But that's so prevalent with our fans. I don't know what
Yeah.
Oh,
we're cannibals. Our fans are cannibals. They eat at each other, and they eat the people that they like. And as soon as somebody falls from grace, let somebody get in a verbal altercation with their wife, or get a DUI, assault somebody for being, out of line with them. Man, we'll come down on them with no mercy and no faith, no forgiveness, no grace. Like, oh man, fuck him, he ain't shit. Like,
yeah.
I don't know
No,
why
there is
we
that.
do
There
that.
is
It's
that.
it's, it's only wrestling.
They do that in music too. I will say it's not as prevalent in wrestling. I mean, me and Brandon talk about this all the time. Like he dubbed it the shitterverse for wrestling fans because it's all over the place. It's kind of the fun part of it. I get for them too is because they're fantasy booking as wrestling fans as we are. That's what we're doing anyway. When I'm on the phone with Brandon, we're sitting there fantasy booking and saying what we think should happen and shit. But neither one of us have been in wrestling. You're the only one here who's been in wrestling, been in the ring, and actually has any knowledge of it. The rest of us are just like kind of fans talking shit. They take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And to your point, though, it is shitty that like the personal, like if somebody falls from grace in their personal life for a little bit, how quick everyone is to jump on it, especially these days. And that happens in music too. As you were saying it, I was thinking of a few guys over the years, and it's really unfortunate because especially now, a lot of it is hearsay and just like someone making a comment on the shit verse, and then everybody jumps on it like it's fact when nothing else has really come out about it yet other than one or two people saying something happened. And then you don't have context, you don't have both sides of the story, you don't have any of that shit, and people just start burying them, and then for those years they have to like sit there and take that. And then when everything comes out a few years later, they're like, see, I told you. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, we shouldn't have been so hard on him. It's like, but you already were.
Mark and I were talking about that on our show today with Chris Jericho. Like Chris Jericho,
Yeah.
Yep.
who's given so much to the world of pro wrestling, and
Rock.
and then,
Yep.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then there's an accusation that turned out that the accusation wasn't true, but the damage is done because now he's being labeled as a certain type of person when the person who even made that accusation went back and said, well, I never actually made that accusation. But it's out there. You've already been
Yeah.
judged
Yep.
by fans, and it's
That
very
might be
hard.
and unfortunately that might be their form of their 15 minutes of fame these days. Is like, if I
Yeah.
just, that's how I'm going to get recognized. And it sucks for so many levels. One, I will briefly talk about is that it fucks up for true victims. Like true victims, like now you have to check everything. Who's crying wolf right now, and that really sucks for the real victims. And then the other ones who are just like playing off of it for some kind of recognition is just bullshit. And I'm glad you brought up Chris because me and Brandon, I'm friends with Chris. I've been friends with him for many years now. And when that news broke out, we talked about it right here too. And I was just like, that doesn't make any sense. I've known Chris for over a decade now. There's no way that this makes any sense. Now, am I with him 24/7? No, and we don't know everybody's demons and stuff.
Yeah, it
like
just
that,
don't
even our
sound
closest
like
friends.
him.
It just don't sound like him was my point. Like, and of course it obviously, as Dave just pointed out, turned out not to be. But I was like, dude, I've hung out with him a lot. Drinking, not drinking, fucking just, talking wrestling, talking music. Obviously he's an encyclopedia of music too. Super fun to talk to him about that stuff. Been on his show and stuff, and over the years, I've never seen anything like that before. So
Yeah.
it's just like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, and it stems
Guys,
from
I'm gonna have to bow out because I gotta take a kid to a doctor's appointment. But I just want to let y'all know, man, that I feel really privileged that y'all would want me and Dave on the show, and Dave can keep it rolling. But
Yeah.
I feel really privileged for y'all to have me on the show, and I've enjoyed my time. I hope this ain't the last time we get to chop it up.
Oh no, it definitely won't be, man. As long as you're willing, I'd love to have you on again, go a little bit deeper onto some shit. There's definitely some stuff I'd like to talk about with the music. As you said, your show would be very similar to what mine would be. I love talking sports, music, wrestling, all the good shit, and none of the bad shit. So let's make sure we make this happen again. Maybe I'll get your contact through Dave here, and we'll stay in contact.
Yeah,
And
man,
glad
for
to have you
sure.
back on, man.
For sure.
Good, man. We'll go get to your kids, man. I appreciate the time.
All right, man. Y'all be easy.
You too, man.
Yeah,
All right, Mark. Talk to you
If I
later.
can figure out how to turn it off.
I'm just gonna cut it right there. If I can figure out how to click, that's how it's gonna go off.
You gotta bring it back in when he's sideways though too.
Yeah, the sideways strongest man in the world. That was Mark Henry. Everybody, thanks for being on the show, brother. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
Mark's a good dude.
Yeah, man. It just seems like I'm glad that the old adage, never meet your heroes and stuff like that. It sounds like that was not the case for you there, Dave.
No, Mark. I mean, all the guys that work on the show, Bully Tommy. I'm blessed. Got Bully Ray, Tommy Dreamer, Mark Henry, Mickey James, Thunder Rosa. Nick Nemeth is a new addition to our show. Formerly Dolph Ziggler. So
Yeah.
they all do such a fantastic job. And yeah, dude. As you know, when you can make your passion and your love and something that you grew up enjoying and make it your career, you can't ask for anything better than that. That's truly a blessing. Like that's,
Yes.
I never would have imagined that this would be my life, but it is, and I love it.
It's awesome,
Yeah, man.
especially here in this past WrestleMania. You guys had 1,300 people packed in there. I remember the first WrestleMania I went to was 32 down in Dallas, just walking around downtown drunk, stumbling in and out of bars. And the tail end of you guys popped up in some bar, and to see where you guys have grown from there to having 1,300 packed in, that's fucking awesome. So kudos.
Yeah, thanks for that, Brandon. Because I remember that show, and it was like we were just getting our footing, and we had about 75 people at that, like, which was great at the time. I was like, wow. But yeah, to get WrestleMania weekend now is a beast, and there's so many events going. We were going head to head with NXT, so there's a lot of and the fact that 1,300 people were willing, and that wasn't just it. We did a show at Xfinity Live at the Victory Beer Garden, and then we did a tailgate out in the parking lot for the fans that were going in. So it's just great, man. It's just I just love it, and I've kind of incorporated things that I like in my life, incorporated into the show. I'm a big metal guy, so I've had, I've had throughout my whole career in radio, to having Rob Halford and Ronnie James Dio on like sports shows that I was a part of because they were big sports fans, to now seeing like Snake Sabo is a big wrestling guy, Anita Strauss is a big wrestling. Big on it. It's just great to see that bridge into something else I enjoy as well. Because, like you guys said earlier, we're all part of the same community. So,
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that music.
That is a great point, though. Like Brandon, sorry to cut you off there. That's a great point, though. Like WrestleMania weekend, like we don't fuck with that. Even though it was here in LA, they're like, "Oh, you guys gonna do anything for that?" Because we are wrestling fans, and we talk a lot about wrestling here on the show. And I was like, "Nah, dude, that competition, I ain't fucking dealing with that."
There's so much to do.
Everyone who's interested in wrestling's out there doing something.
yeah, but you should do something. I would say you should do something because you got a big fan base.
Yeah.
And then you'll be, I mean, when you do it, you're going to be like, wow. Because when you see the amount of people, because, and we're doing our shows, we don't see anybody except the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people out there that are listening to that show and they feel like your family because they listen to you all the time. That's the beauty of radio is like, I think more than anything else, it's like they feel like they're a part of you. And they feel like when you're talking to them and talking about your day and talking about the shit you're going through, they feel like that personal connection, so they feel like they're your friend. They'll
Yeah.
show, man. They'll come out. They'll show. They'll support.
How often are you guys doing live shows like that, where it's like a pop up
We
event?
always we always do it at WrestleMania. We do it around SummerSlam as well. We started doing things at the Royal Rumble. I kind of did my own thing. I just recently did a show at the Gramercy on my own, which was cool. But it's all kind of like part of the family tree
Yeah.
of Busted Open. So I'd love to do more. I would love to go out and do more. I think it's great because to get that, again, that personal connection with the fans.
Absolutely. Man, so you did mention SummerSlam. By the time this comes out, probably in a few weeks, they'll have started gearing up. You know, some of the storylines will start gearing up for SummerSlam. Before we get into what's going on right now, let's just jump forward to the future. What are some of your predictions for the summer of wrestling?
I'm wondering when we're going to see Roman come back, and I'm wondering when we're going to see The Rock come back. I think when The Rock comes back, he's going to continue to be the biggest heel out there, and I think when Roman comes back, he's going to be the big baby face that the WWE always wanted. They always wanted him to be the guy. I think when he comes back, he's going to. You're already hearing it now on SmackDown. You're hearing the "We Want Roman" chants already, and the guy's only been gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So build up on that. I think Roman's going to be making a big return, and I think he's going to be in a major match come SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's something that as wrestling fans we've talked about too. Is just like you know he's going to go away when he eventually relinquishes the title for a while, and when he comes back, it's going to be the biggest pop ever. There's no way you can't. There's no way you can't make him a face at that point, right? I mean, we've seen it enough, and it's because the fans demand it. Like if the fans are chomping at the bit for somebody to come in, they're going to be a face. You know what I mean? That's just how it works. I mean, Rhea Ripley is going to be away for a little while. She was already trending with the fan base as a face. So now they got to lean into it, and with her going away and coming back is going to be perfect timing for that.
And you never want to see anyone get injured, obviously, but look what it did for Cody. That torn pec, would we have seen Cody, being in the main event at a WrestleMania if it wasn't for the story of the torn pec and him coming back? Like, I don't know. And I agree with you. I think when Rhea Ripley comes back, she's going to be the biggest babyface that there is. So, and Seth Rollins, too. Like, Seth Rollins, I was never really sold on the Seth Rollins character. It just didn't do anything for me. But now hearing what he did for everybody, WrestleMania 40, when he comes back, he's going to be like the WWE's on fire.
It is
so
right now.
Fire.
It really
like
is.
I've never seen the WWE this hot. And listen, I'm a fan of everything, but like for about a 3-year period, I was being called an AEW shill. Now I'm being called the WWE shill. So I just tell it like it is, but the WWE is hot. It's really hot right now.
That's funny. We just conversation like 10 minutes before we started on air here, and same man. Like I had fallen out watching WWE for a while, but recently, like the build into WrestleMania and after, it's fucking unreal. It's so good, so entertaining, man.
And now we're getting like, for me as a wrestling fan, they wouldn't say pro wrestling, they would say sports entertainment. That would aggravate the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And then like no blood. And now like on SmackDown, you see Kevin Owens busted open. Like this new era of Triple H is giving the wrestling fans things. And that's why I think we've kind of, and I hope it changes, kind of the decline of AEW, because AEW was the alternative. But now the WWE is so good, you don't really need that alternative right now. So it makes it tougher. And I hope AEW turns things around. They really do. But it's hard to go up against that beast. It's hard enough to go up against the WWE when things are bad. Yeah. But now that things are good, man, that's tough, man.
And they've only been around for 5 years now. That's also tough too. I mean, just that, based on that, it's like bringing it back to you as a metal fan, or it's like a new band can have a lot of success, but when you're going up against, let's say, Metallica, who's been doing it for 40 years. I mean, this is a good analogy. You got, maybe a band that's doing great, but only been at it for 5 years. You don't have the 40-year beast that is Metallica or the WWE. So you're going to have to ride those ebbs and flows, I think, as AEW. And they've already seen that because every year in, year out, for the past 5 years, you see the dip around WrestleMania season because everyone tunes into WrestleMania. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Every wrestling fan does. They start paying attention a little bit more to that. But to your point, with the way that WWE is going right now, is it just a dip for WrestleMania, or is this the showing of new shit? And that means that AEW is going to have to adjust to stay relevant. And
I think AEW has got to stay away from taking shots at the WWE. I know ECW did that back in the day, but ECW was, let's face it, they never got more than 7,000 fans. AEW was selling out arenas, and I love Dynasty. Dynasty was a great show, but then in the press conference afterwards, Tony Storm made a shot and Will Ospreay made a shot. Why? Don't do that. Yeah. Stay in your lane, do what you do best, and just focus and concentrate on what you can do to have a better cut. I think it just sounds awful when they just had the biggest weekend in the history of pro wrestling. Yeah. You gotta stay in your lane and don't take shots, because when you take shots, I know for me right now it's kind of I roll my eyes. If you did this in the Vince McMahon era, okay, I'm on board. Right. But now it just sounds hollow. Just don't take those WWE shots. At least that's what I believe. Maybe people think differently. I just think that there's no reason to go there. I've never understood the shots back and forth to begin with. To your point earlier, it was an alternative for wrestling fans, right? And I think that was the strength. I listened to Eric Bischoff's podcast, and when he talks about when he took the reins in WCW, he knew that he was never going to beat the WWF at the time at their own game, so he had to come up with something completely different. And I think that's the strength of AEW is they being young, being new, they have the ability to go wherever they want, and I think that they should. I think to try and shoot at the king and miss like they're going to keep doing is wasted energy. Put your energy into creating something different and continue that way, because it's not direct competition. Direct competition doesn't even exist anymore. Everything's streaming. They're going. Yeah. WWE is going to Netflix. There's no rivals of a Monday Night War. That this is never going to happen. And even if it did, you're not going to win that war. Again, let's go back to 5 years versus 40 years of fan bases. That's just never going to happen. So go find. To your point, Dave, go find your lane. This isn't a perfect opportunity. They say pressure makes diamonds. Go make your fucking diamond. You know what I mean? This is your time. Yeah, I agree.
And then on the fan side, it's even worse though, because there's so much tribalism in it. And it's if you're just a fan of pro wrestling, enjoy it all. Don't stick to I have to watch WWE and I want to tear down AEW online, or vice versa, where it's I love AEW and WWE sucks. Dude, wrestling, it's all good. Just enjoy all of it.
Yeah. And I think, to Brandon, to your point, we saw back in April, Edge had this promo in the middle of the ring when he was let's stop the tribalism, let's celebrate pro wrestling. And he mentioned the WWF and people booed. He's no, don't boo. Yeah. It's all entertainment. We're all part of the same team. And then the next week you had the Punk video and Will Ospreay cutting that promo on Triple H. And it's just you just took all that goodwill and you completely just threw it out the window. So it sounds so what it did is it sounds disingenuous.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that to your fan base. No.
And I agree. It's unfortunate because we're all saying the same thing. We're all fans. We're just wrestling fans. We like both organizations, obviously. There's things that we like about both things, and I love the opportunity to be able to watch that much fucking wrestling and have the plethora this easily. Because I don't know about. I know Dave, you were talking. You watch you're in the International Hall of Fame, so you're more international with your wrestling. I'm more nationwide. It's always been WWA. Back in the day, it was WCW for me and a little bit of TNA, but. And now AEW is giving me something that I can just throw on the TV and watch. It makes it easy for me. I'm not searching for it. So I guess like it's just awesome to have that ease of getting different genres of wrestling, and that's what wrestling has always been. It's a buffet of entertainment. So why not make the buffet bigger? I don't get it.
Yeah, I always go by, like, if you love Coke, don't spend your time ripping Pepsi apart. Just say how much you love Coke. Like, I mean, like, it just, like, I don't understand the mentality of, like, you're getting excitement and joy out of ripping something else apart. Like, you're right. Now, you don't have to like it, you don't have to love it, but just be happy that it's there if you ever want to watch it and enjoy it. Like, growing up when we talked about metal music, I listened to everything.
Yeah.
Like, I had my favorite bands, but I didn't go around just ripping the other bands that weren't my favorites. It's there if you want to listen to it. That's it.
I mean, in my circles when I was in middle school, you ripped bands. You had to rip bands when you're.
Well, I mean, yeah, Poison. Like, nobody like that. By the way, Poison is the one band that's banned from Busted Open. We don't play Poison.
Why?
Why is that?
On my show? Because it's Poison. Shit.
That's the answer, just because it's Poison.
So I guess I'm being disingenuous.
Yeah, no shit, man. You just fucking.
But like, I created the show, and one day they're coming back with Poison.
Rick
I'm
James,
like, what the fuck is this? Like, you're playing Poison on a show I created? I'm not listening to fucking Poison. You want to play Britney Fox? Okay, I'll go. You want to play some Motley Crue? All right, fine. He ain't playing fucking Poison. I'm sorry, that ain't happening. Not on my watch.
All right, we're already going into the music, man. Like, what was your first metal album, or your first album in general that you bought, and brought you into the fandom of music, man?
Yeah, I still have it. 1978. My mom took me and my brother to Sears, gave us each $10, and said, "Buy whatever you want." And I bought Kiss Alive 2.
It was gonna be
Okay.
Kiss Alive 2, and I still have that one that I bought in 1978 at Sears. I'll never forget, like, opening up the gatefold and seeing that shot of them on stage and Gene Simmons with the blood coming down. So I remember coming home and playing Kiss Alive 2 on my Mickey Mouse record player at, 6.5 years old,
Nice.
So I can always say, like, is Kiss my favorite band? No, but Kiss was like the gateway drug. Like, Kiss was like, I'll always love Kiss for the fact that they opened up a brand new world of music. And I just went off running from there. But yeah, that was the first album I bought, was Kiss Alive 2.
Well, you said you were like 6 years old playing on your Mickey record player. What made you buy the Kiss record? Was it the cover then?
There was a lot of talk about it in my school. Like, a lot of that Iron-On Kiss Destroyer T-shirt. Like, everybody had that Iron-On Kiss. So I actually bought that T-shirt before I actually listened to the band, because in grade school you had to have that Kiss Destroyer T-shirt. So that just was like, at some point I had to buy it, and it was Kiss Alive 2 for me. And then that opened up the door, and then, before I knew it, like, Black Sabbath, and my brother got me all the 6 original Black Sabbath albums on Christmas, and that just got the ball rolling for me.
And what would you say is your favorite band now then? If you had to pick one, or
my favorite since 1986, and it was on Halloween 1986, MTV concert. The Nightmare Returns, Alice Cooper live in Detroit, 1986. And from that show on, and for anybody who hasn't seen it, watch it. It's one of the best concerts ever. From that moment on, my favorite's Alice Cooper.
nice.
But like, for me, it's Alice Cooper, Motorhead, Black Sabbath. Like, those are the bands I grew up on, and I still love. So.
Is there anybody new that you listen to, or you just constantly go back to the top fives for you?
I do, like, your band, dude. Like, I try to, and I mean, I know that's not new now, but like, for me it kind of is, in a lot of ways. I try to listen to new music as much as I can. I think it's important to do it. I think that's the beauty. A lot of people talk about streaming and talk about Pandora or Spotify. The one good thing about those things, because I'm still a true believer in buying the record and listening to every song front to back. You know, you invested money in a record, even if you thought it's not good, you're going to listen to it over and over again because you bought it with your own money.
Yeah, you're gonna find something you like about it.
Yeah, you're gonna find. But I think the beauty of streaming is like with Spotify and even like Sirius XM. I'll find the channel and I'll just listen to it. So they'll play newer music, and I'm all ears. And I'm a big fan too, guys, of like bands that I grew up with that put out new music.
Yeah.
A lot of people just want to hear. I just want to hear the stuff from the '70s, or I just want to hear the stuff from the '80s. Dude, like I mentioned, like Alice Cooper, I love his last few albums. Like I love the new music. Like Iron Maiden does a great job of they'll play their new music live. Like you gotta wave the flag for new music. And that's the one thing about a lot of music fans I don't like, that they just want to hear their shit. And I get it that they grew up with. But you gotta kind of open up your mind and your ears to newer stuff.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly. We're always trying to do new stuff. That's the thing as an artist, you know. We're still putting the time, the effort, everything into it, you know. And we're not even at the level of some of the guys you're talking about there, but we're always going to be putting out new music because we're doing this for, you know, we do it for the fans, of course, too, but this is really for us, man. Like we didn't start out.
No, but you're great. Like this is the one thing, no disrespect to any older bands, but you talk about bands that I grew up, they're now in their 70s, dude.
Yeah.
Like you guys go out there on stage. You put on one hell of a stage show because of the energy. You're younger. Like, you know, you can't do that in your 70s. You know, Deep Purple ain't running around the stage. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Dude, that's
well, you can't yet. I mean, Singularity is around the corner, so maybe we will be able to still do that. I don't know. So. I'm hoping so, man. I'm hoping. That's why I'm so into technology or reading about and listening about technology these days. I'm hopeful it's going to help me out to keep being able to do what I love doing for a little bit longer.
You guys got to get one of those Kiss deals. Did you see the recent?
Yeah, they sold their avatars.
Everything.
Is that what
they sold the
everything. Everything. I went to the last Kiss show at Madison Square Garden. And the way that show ended, dude, you might as well just stuck a knife in my heart. Like the way that show ended was just, I mean, the show was great, but seeing those freaking Kiss avatars when people thought maybe Ace Frehley and Peter Criss was going to hit the stage and you show us fucking avatars, man, that was just, that was a punch to the gut.
That kind of sucks though for the ones that are still alive. Like I get it if they're past, you know, but Ace Frehley and
still alive.
Ace Frehley's still alive, right?
Yeah, they're the Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, the four original alive, members are all still alive.
Yeah, so that I agree with that. That's cheap as fuck. Yeah.
Seriously.
Even Guns N' Roses every once in a while has the original guys come back. Yeah. I mean, well now Slash and Duff are permanently back, but even for those years where they weren't, or they'd still have Izzy come up and do shit with them, you know, like. You see, you'd still do some songs from, you know, with the guys. Let bygones be bygones. What the fuck?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but I don't know about the whole Avatar, the AI stuff and everything. It's just like, dude, things evolve, things change. Like, find something else to gravitate to. Like, enjoy the music, celebrate the music that was. But I don't know how I feel about, like, I know they did it with Ronnie James Dio. No disrespect to people who enjoyed that. Let me keep my memory of what he was like on stage when he was alive. I don't know if I'm not a big fan of the whole AI shit.
No, but for those guys, I understand it. Like, hey, we're at like the end of the road here. We have this opportunity to make the most money we have ever made, most likely, just by signing this away, being done with it, go live freely. Hey, I get it. I can see that perspective of it. But yeah, as a fan, kind of sucks.
I don't know if I want my Kiss to stay alive in cartoons and AI. Like, you know, let the music do the talking. You know, you know what I love is like with these bands putting out like new mixes or remastered editions or unreleased tracks and stuff like that's great. That keeps people talking and there's new things. I don't know.
I kind of expected Kiss to go the route, and I guess it seems like they haven't. But remember years ago listening to one of the members of Gwar in an interview talk about how they built their characters and everything and their costumes and everything so that Gore can always live on. Like their children or they'll recruit younger people in to fill the position so that Gore under what it is will always be Gore with different members coming in. You wouldn't know because you're in the costume. Kiss really has the opportunity to do that. I kind of felt like they were going to go that route.
Yeah, but no one's going to give them $100 million or however much it was, $300 million to.
That's true.
You know, like.
Oh, so you just got to bring up the money and be real about it all the time, Brandon.
You know what I was hoping that this was going to do, and I'm surprised they didn't do it. And it would have been huge. Have Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley do like a tour, like a spoken word tour, where they would go to venues all around the world and just tell stories of what it was like to be in Kiss all those years and behind the scenes stuff that our fans never heard. That would sell out in minutes. Like, I think fans would really love that. And they don't have to put the costumes on. They don't have to go up there and perform. Just sit and just like share stories and do a Q&A with fans. I think that would be huge.
I feel like the door's not closed on that. That'll probably happen at some point.
Nah. Yeah, that's definitely not closed. I mean, also, like you mentioned Paul Stanley there. I had the pleasure a couple years back of going to Chris Santos's wedding, and he was friends with Paul Stanley, so he had him and his Motown band perform at the wedding. And, you know, you're right here, as close as the screen is to me, is Paul Stanley singing a bunch of old Motown classics. And I'm just like, this is fucking cool. Like, I want to know more about that side of Paul Stanley, to your point, you know?
Yeah, just tell us things that we don't know. And I think fans would eat that up, because now you're putting control of your band. You're not in control of it anymore. Now, who knows what they're going to do?
That's an interesting point, because Gene has always been, I mean, I've never met the man, and I can't speak to it personally or knowing the insides of his business, but from an outside perspective, it's always seemed like he's kept a pretty tight handle over every decision that Kiss has ever made over the years, and like really been in control there. So it's interesting to see him kind of relinquish it.
Yeah, and again, you don't know how they're going to manipulate your images, how they're going to manipulate your music, and how that music is going to be looked upon 40, 50 years down the road. May not be. They may do damage to the image of Kiss. Who knows?
I mean, it opens the door.
Well,
too,
you would hope it'd be written into those contracts, some sort of, some sort of good faith measure in those contracts. You would hope. I mean, we don't know though. None of us were involved in those talks, obviously. So
yeah.
But Brandon was bringing up something earlier, something to tie into before we put a bow on this thing. Brandon, you were mentioning that Dave's co-host over at Busted Open have come out to some music that were by real artists, and we were talking about how close music and wrestling, especially rock music and wrestling, has been tied into over the years. What were some of your favorite entrance themes over the years as a wrestling fan?
For me, Iron Man for the Road Warriors, like the Road Warriors coming out to Iron Man, and that was like, to see them come out, and I got to see the Road Warriors live back in the day, before the WWE ruined them. I really enjoyed them coming out.
You weren't an LOD fan? You Road Warriors too?
The whole Rocco thing and all that stuff. I'm sorry, didn't do anything for me. Sonny as their manager instead of Precious Paul Ellering. No, that ain't good. But Hulk Hogan early on, Eye of the Tiger, coming out to Eye of the Tiger, man, that was awesome. I'm old school. Junkyard Dog coming out to Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. Like, that was great. And even now, I give a lot of credit to Tony Khan. Tony Khan gets the music rights for a lot. That's so cool. Like, the Elite coming out to Kansas. Yeah. And, Orange Cassidy coming out to Jefferson Airplane and shit like that. Like, that's awesome. I think that's great. And I'm glad that Tony Khan does that.
It makes all the difference.
That actually got my son into Kansas, that we
really?
just mentioned. Yeah, because, I mean, he's only 7, but he was like, he was always asking me to play Carry On My Wayward Son. Like, he just wanted to hear that song over and over. And the first time he ever heard it was when I took him to an all-elite wrestling event.
That's awesome.
And he was just like, I love this song. And I was like, all right, cool. I still haven't shown him too much other Kansas, but, it opens up, you know, a lot of people, especially when you're talking about a generational gap in music, like Kansas to my son who's 7. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good way to introduce him into some classic rock.
No, and I think it's good for the bands as well, because we saw that with Living Color when CM Punk came back with AEW. They went right up the charts again. So
and
that's
they opened
cool
for us there at Madison Square Garden where you were at.
Yes.
It was fantastic. I mean, I've always been a Living Color fan, and I actually just spoke to Corey. That episode's going to come out here in a couple of days. It's incredible, man. And he was talking about that, you know, that resurgence that comes from, you know, people hearing their song on WWE today, you know.
That's so cool. I think that's great for bands. And, you know, we see it even like with TV shows, and, you know, we saw it with Kate Bush, like, you know, 40 years after putting out a song, it's, you know, at the top of the chart. So, you know, a lot of people like to condemn the way music is consumed now, but in a lot of ways it's great too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always, you know, pros and cons of something like this when it's like the Wild West of, I mean, the great thing for artists is that there's no right or wrong way to release music or get it out there or be seen. It's just kind of like you get to figure it out and be artistic and creative in that world now too, not just when you're making music or an album or the artwork or a music video. Now you have a release factor of it you could be creative with, which is really cool.
And I'm still a fan of buying the physical copy of music, because I feel like if it's on my phone, I don't really own it. It's not really there, and it could be gone in a second. So I'm still a believer in buying the physical copy of music.
I get that, and I love that. I mean, I've kind of transitioned over to the way everything is now. There's some albums I'll get every now and then, but for the most part, I'm a streamer these days. I really am. So nothing wrong with it either.
No, it doesn't matter how you consume it as long as you're consuming it.
Absolutely. So Brandon, speaking on these theme entrances and stuff, I don't know that I've ever asked you, what was one of your favorite theme entrances?
Man, I don't know. So, I mean, I grew up watching wrestling from like 95 on, so I caught all the generic like WWF themes, a lot of the Jim Johnson shit though, so like a lot of those themes are iconic in my mind. So like, dude,
yeah,
the DX theme was like one of my favorites growing up.
Oh yeah,
Chris Warren band,
dude. I would play that. I'd play that in the morning before I went to school, just like on a MP3 player, like just like to get fucking pumped to go to school when I was in middle school. That shit was awesome.
Oh my God, I'm so old. You're talking about listening to music on an MP3 player in middle school.
That sounds old to people, by the way. I just want to point out, not to make you feel even older, but like me calling it an MP3 player, because I'm literally envisioning it on my fucking Windows 98 or whatever it was, and you had an MP3 player you had to like download from something, drag it over, and hit play on it on there, and that's archaic. No one even knows. I mean, there's listeners right now who don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's so I've been feeling old lately, man. Feeling old.
Nah, but you look good, and you look good on the at WrestleMania 40, your guys' event. What was up with that sweet robe you were wearing the whole weekend, man?
Wait, you don't know about the robe?
I mean, no, not in detail.
All right, so let me tell you. So when The Rock came back and took the main event away from Cody Rhodes, the next show on that Monday, I did the show. I was disheveled, like my hair was a mess, and I was wearing my wife's pink robe because I hadn't showered, I didn't get dressed. I was so distraught over Cody Rhodes being taken out of the main event of WrestleMania. And I went on an epic rant on The Rock that went viral. Well, The Rock did his own rant on his Instagram and used the video of me in the pink robe and called me a Cody crybaby.
Yes. You are the start of the Cody Crybaby. Crybaby.
So I'm like the quote unquote pseudo leader of the Cody Crybabies. Called me, an old man, not playing with my kids, and saying Cody's got to finish the story. And he showed the video of me on Busted Open with the pink robe on.
Okay, so in all seriousness, though, that's a pretty cool moment to have The Rock bring you into a fucking and you know it's the equivalent of being the original jabroni. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah, he called me a jabroni. He called me a jack off. He called me all these names, but the one that stuck was the Cody Crybaby.
so good.
And so that, and by the way, that pink rope, I would show it to you, but it is now in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Huh.
Seth Turner, who runs the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, I met with him, and he took it, and it now, he actually took some of The Rock's memorabilia and some of The Rock's ring-worn gear, and then moved it next to Salvatore Bellomo and some of the greatest enhancement talent of all time. He put it on that rack, and then he put my pink robe where Rock's ring-worn gear used to be. So if you go to the Hall of Fame, you'll get to see my wife's Victoria's Secret pink robe. So
That is fantastic. Move down the bench, Rock. We got a Cody Crybaby to put in the Hall of Fame here. So
yeah, so so it was, and we gave away 250 robes at our party that was gone in less than 5 minutes. So, you know, it was a little bit of my own little movement during what was a just amazing story with Cody Rhodes. So,
yeah,
That is awesome.
dude, that's so awesome. All right, at the end here, we got to talk a little bit about a dynasty. I wanted to bring it up earlier, get everybody's opinion here on everything. You said you watched the show; it was a good show. You talked about the press afterward, but how'd you feel about, like, what was your favorite match of the night and why?
I mean, Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay was
Right.
absolutely fantastic. You know, again, so much. One of the good things and maybe bad things about AEW is they give a lot. They throw a lot at you. And I don't think sometimes they let things breathe enough a little bit. You kind of want to let things breathe a little bit, but, you know, that's just my take. But Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay, those two of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah.
And Bryan Danielson, you know, when it's all said and done, is going to be maybe in the top 10 greatest pro wrestlers of all time. So to see him and Will Ospreay was absolutely fantastic. The moment of Swerve Strickland winning that AEW World Championship was amazing as well. And I thought Thunder and Tony Storm did a great job. But to me, Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay killed it for sure.
I think you named three of the best matches. If I could talk this fucking morning, best matches that I agree with.
Yeah.
I think we'd probably agree. What say you there, Brandon?
I mean, I'm in the same boat. You nailed it. No need to make an echo here. Like, those were great fucking matches, man. And I'm a big fan of Ospreay. Always loved his stuff in New Japan and Ring of Honor. Like, good shit. But dude, that match was just epic. That was a really good matchup between those two.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to nitpick and complain, but do you think sometimes the AEW pay-per-views are a little too long?
You know, it depends. I'm used to the long shows that WWE used to do too, though. You know, back before Mania was 2 nights, that drug on for fucking like 8 hours almost. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see what you're coming from. I mean, my wife, who's not a wrestling fan, was watching. I had it on last night, and she's like, "Wow, this match has really been going on for a long time." Speaking of the Dan Bryson and Will Ospreay match, yeah, it went on for a while, but it was good. I mean, it was as a wrestling fan, you're watching the whole time. It was epic, epic move and storytelling in the ring over and over. It was fantastic. My only nitpicky thing was, and I was telling Brandon this before, I was like, are they playing into the injured neck of Bryan Danielson a little too much at this point?
No, I mean, it's funny you say that, because that's one of the things where I think a lot of times there's maybe too many matches and they rush through things. Like, it looked like Bryan Danielson was injured when that match was over, and they quickly got off of it because they had to go to another video package. Like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to go there, you got to really make it mean something. And you really got to kind of let that story play out a little bit. So to your point, maybe they are, but if you're going to go there, you got to really like make it a focus and not just the same thing with Adam Cole. Like, Adam Cole got out of his wheelchair last night.
Yeah.
And he got up, he started walking, everybody's like, ooh, and they're like, yeah, but we got to go to this video package for the next match. Like, whoa, wait a second. You know, like, yeah.
That's a really fair point. Definitely expected that to be a bigger moment than it turned out to be. And I don't know what ball was dropped in that, or if there was a different plan, or whatever the case may be. Again, we're just fans here talking. And
Yeah, just nip. I mean, it was a great show. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, it really was.
Just a little nitpick.
Yeah, I mean, and then I really loved the match with FTR and the Bucks. Like I thought the match itself was great. I told Brandon the little nitpicky the Jungle Boy run in was it's watching it on pay-per-view, maybe live in the arena it felt different, but watching it on pay-per-view, you didn't really know where Jack Perry came in from. The only reference was the commentating saying the fan got into the ring, but you didn't see him come in from the chairs. So I mean, they had the shot on Dax Harwood the whole time, and then all of a sudden he was in the ring knocking it down, and it was like, I think it was a decent storyline and a decent angle. But the execution of it, if I'm being nitpicky, was a little funky for those of us watching on pay-per-view, I think.
And I think to the point, too, is coming after Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. Like, I think you could tell the crowd was gassed. Like, it took them a while to get into that match because they just saw something that was tremendous. So, yeah, but I agree with you. Like, just little small things. Those camera angles mean a lot. And it could be like it's just like you said, just kind of came out of nowhere, and you kind of feel like you missed the moment just a little bit. But I got to praise AEW production. The Swerve Strickland when he jumped off that top rope, the shot from behind him, where you saw the crowd all get up, like that was a pretty cool angle and a pretty cool moment last night.
And I'm glad. Speaking of taking the time, I'm glad that Swerve took the time. Like and Swerve and Joe getting in there and really taking the time to, almost Macho Man-esque, just like get up to the top, raise the arms when he's coming down with the stomp. I agree with you. That was a really cool moment. Shout out to Swerve, who we're friends with here on the show. Love that dude. He's a great talent and a good human being too.
Yeah, so, he's a good dude. Super good dude.
Absolutely. Well, dude, hey, I really appreciate the time today, Dave. We're going to have to do this quite a few more times, I'm sure, over our careers as wrestling fans and guys who like to talk shit about it. And if, you're ever on the West Coast, don't hesitate to pick up the phone. And next time I'm on the East Coast, we'll get together.
All right, buddy. I'll take you up on that because I'm coming to LA. My wife and I are coming to LA, so.
Yeah, dude. When are you guys coming out?
First week of May.
Shit.
Okay. Dude, that's right around the corner. Yeah, hit me up. Let's do something.
All right, brother.
All right, man. Well, have a good one. Everyone go check out Dave and the rest of the hosts over at Busted Open every day for 3 hours on SiriusXM and coming to you October 11th with their own channel. So we'll make sure.
Featuring the Drinks with Johnny show.
Yes, featuring the Drinks with Johnny show.
Drive time. Time with Johnny.
Drive time. Hey, I'm off the booze. Everyone's asking me if I'm going to change the title of the show, and I'm like, I'm not going to, but maybe for that I would.
Drive time with Johnny. I like that.
Yeah, I love it. We'll talk, man. But again, thank you for being on the show. Thanks to you, Brandon, for being here. Thanks to everyone for being here, whether you're on YouTube or listening at home or on your drive time. Thanks again, and till next time, as always, cheers.